Okay, and so there are no restrooms. So I'm not sure how long this is going to last. If you need to, you can run over to the sandpiper across the street, whatnot like that. But just be aware of that, and we'll see what goes on. Um, Real quick, again, this is a special session, so I'm not going to go through everything. Obviously, watch us on YouTube and Rumble and whatnot. We're raffling off this flag for America 250. It's $20 a piece, so we'd really encourage you to buy as many raffle tickets as you can. It's actually a fundraiser for Stand Up for Idaho, and if you like what we're doing, we need to do what we can to raise some funds. And actually, Ben Geeson, he's up here selling some books that he's had. He's a wealth of information on the financial system and what's going on, and it makes your head sort of spin. But it's good to understand it. And I look at it like this: before you can change something, you have to understand how it works. And Ben is doing a good job of trying to educate me on that. But he is selling some books that he's written. The books are $25 a piece, but he's donating $5 of that to Stand Up for Idaho. So if you'd like to get a book from Ben, we'd all appreciate that. And again, our major fundraiser that we have is we're having a gala in February 7th. And please, I'd like to invite everybody to come and, let me know way before then and all that, because we want to make it a nice, fun, nice evening of dancing, and we'll have some hors d'oeuvres, and we'll have some auction items and things, typical fundraiser type stuff. But it's a formal, semi-formal dancing type thing, and it's just a fun thing to do. So I encourage everybody to do that. Next week is Thanksgiving week. We're not going to be here. Just remember, we're not going to be here, so I won't even spam you next week, okay? Well, I might spam you towards the end of the week. But on the 3rd, we're having an investigative journalist. His name is Casey Whalen. He's actually from North Idaho. And he actually was looking into this 50 States, One Israel event that we had several legislators go to. Actually, 250 legislators from across the country went to that all-expense-paid trip to Israel. Okay, and so he's been poking around and found out some interesting things, and he's most likely going to Zoom in and whatnot, and he may have another gentleman join him, but it's interesting to listen to what he has found out about that. So it's very important that we understand what he's doing. And I'll just say this, is a lot of the issue really is limiting our ability to practice our First Amendment rights against Israel. Like if you're upset at Israel or something, they're trying to make it actually so you can't criticize Israel. We already have laws on the books in Idaho that you can't, a company can't boycott, sanction, or, I don't know, it's a BDS, I forget what they are, that stand for. But basically, if you're a company that says something, doesn't want to do something with Israel or whatnot like that, you cannot have a state contract, is what it is. When they do this, they're taking your rights away from you. The state is. And all that. So we need to pay attention to those things. Okay, I'm going to get going on tonight. We're here tonight because November 4th, there was an election. And one of the candidates, the candidates for mayor and city council seat 2, nobody won 50% plus 1, a majority. And so a couple of nights ago, we had a mayoral forum like that, and with we invited the 2 candidates to come. Only one came. Mr. Aldrich came. Ms. Burtonshaw chose not to come. Tonight, we actually have this candidate forum for City Council Seat 2, and Teresa Dominick is here so far. Brandon has not showed up yet, but I want to make a comment, and some people, I was talking to it earlier today. We have a lot of interest in the mayoral race, but if you even hear some of the things, and even Ms. Burtonshaw, she's say, what's the purpose? What's the mayor do? What's the mayor's role? And she said, essentially at one point, that the mayor is the tiebreaker. The city council decides most everything. So the city council is extremely important. Who's on the city council? They decide primarily the direction of everything. I liken it a little bit to Congress, U.S. Congress and all that. They set the laws. Yeah, the president has, the force to do and make some certain things happen. But the ones that set the laws is Congress, okay, and the Senate. Okay, think of that, as, and simplistically, if you will, in a city, you have the city council. That's the board. And then the mayor's the CEO that takes direction from the board, things like this. Okay? City council seats are extremely important. And so we need to pay attention to those. Okay, I said some of this couple of nights ago, but I'm going to reiterate it. The primary issue that I've saw and heard from most candidates and people and whatnot was actually the lack of communication. Wasn't this, there was a lot of grousing about apartments and this and that and whatever and everything, but the biggest issue was communication. People the city, the mayor, the council people and all that, not talking to the public, not informing the public. Every candidate said that they were going to be better at communicating. However, and I'm going to do this again, on our mayoral October 1st, we had a mayoral candidate forum, and it upset some people. What happened was, and especially Brandon Lee, who's the candidate here, he felt that forum was disrespectful and lacked civility. And the reason for that primarily was there was some clapping and some comments going on. And again, I'd ask people to go do this. Go look at that October 1st forum. Watch it. Tell me if you think it was civil and disrespectful or not. If you thought it was okay, give us a thumbs up. If it was a thought of it was bad and disrespectful and uncivil, give me a thumbs down. I would really appreciate that. And if you have any examples, any ideas about how we can improve things, let me know. Okay, now about tonight's event, I called and texted Brandon several times, but he never responded to me. But I did run into him actually at a City Club event. And I asked him, and I actually chased him out in the parking lot and said, "Hey, Brandon," and to talk to him, and I said, "Are you going to come?" And he said, "No, I don't think so." And I said, "Well, why not?" And he said, I reiterated that we thought that we were disrespectful and uncivil. Okay, and it was because of the clapping and all this. And I commented, that even in a presidential debate, you listen to Trump and Kamala or Trump and Biden, and in the background, you'll hear some yays or, you'll hear an audience response. Brandon's comment to me is, well, this isn't a presidential race. Okay, I agree. It's not a presidential race. But you know what? In a lot of ways, it's more important than a presidential race. Because local elections are what actually end up driving the country. And local elections have a direct and immediate effect and actually have the most impact on a community. Trump and, Congress and everybody, they're out there doing all sorts of stuff and everything, but you know what? They didn't cause the apartments to come up. I'll use that one that people say, okay, they're not the one that's having a lack of communication to the people here. They have their own business. It's the local elections. This is extremely important. Okay, so in my mind, I think that it's very important to pay attention to these local elections. Get involved. I had hoped that, Brandon would change his mind and decide to come tonight, but obviously he didn't. Okay. We need to remember that anybody in an elected position works for the people. Works for you. You vote, you say, that's the person, I want this person to do this. It's a job. You know, you are their boss. You can vote them out next time or whatever. So these forums, whether it be a Stand Up for Idaho forum, whether it be a City Club forum, Chamber of Commerce forum, being invited onto the radio to talk and all that, that's a job interview. It really is a job interview. And if a candidate does not show up to the job interview, should the candidate get the job? And I look at it like that. If I, you know, when I was in my career and all that, if I had a job interview for whatever, if I wouldn't have shown up, I guarantee I wouldn't have got that job. Okay, so we have to show up. We may not like it, but we have to show up. And we all need to remember, I don't care whether it's the mayor, the city council, the sheriff, a legislator, the governor, and technically they work for you. And so you need to pay attention to them. And the election on November 4th, only 25% of the registered voters in Bonneville County voted. 75% chose not to. Okay? Need to encourage everybody come December 2nd to get out and vote. Get your friends, your neighbors, and all that family, get out and vote. It is something that we still have right now in this country that we're able to do. Anyway, Brandon's not coming. Okay, that's it. That's his choice. He can do what he wants. But we have another opportunity to hear from Teresa and ask her some hard questions and whatnot, and we'll go ahead and do that. Teresa, come on up. Let's give her a big hand, and we'll go as long as we can until we need to really break up, I guess, and for bathroom breaks and all that. So, Teresa, give me no bathroom breaks, she said. So, okay, so. Well, there's a bathroom over at Sandpiper. You just can't stay over there, and there's one across the street. So anyway. Okay, what we'll like to try to do with it is give Teresa just a few minutes. Here, you need to use your microphone. And give us a few minutes, like I say, why she thinks she's wonderful and why we should vote for her. And then we'll go ahead and turn it over and ask her some questions. Thank you. Teresa, it's all up to you.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, my message has been the same since day one. It's been about smart growth, citizens first, and common sense leadership. Hasn't changed since day one, no matter what happened in this campaign. What's bubbled up when we've done like the forums and the meet and greets and just talking to people while canvassing has been really two big issues. And I think, Doug, you were reading my script because you were talking exactly about what I'm going to talk about. The first one, like Doug said, was the high density housing. It's a frustrating thing to deal with on a daily basis, and you really hear people out there that are frustrated and don't understand why it's happening. So one thing that I think is good that came out of this campaign is awareness for the city's comprehensive plan, which is called Imagine IF. So I'm hoping that as many people can read it before the election as possible. It is the driver of all the high density growth and development that's happening in Idaho Falls today. So I think that's a really good thing that has come out of this is just the awareness of what's driving this growth and development. And another thing that comes up that Doug also mentioned was communication. Just people don't feel heard. They get 3 minutes in the city council meeting. They can talk in the planning meetings, but just it's being ignored. And then if you want to call the city, we talk to a lot of people. If you want to call the city, you just don't get answers. You don't get to the right person to get the answers that you need. So my commitment is to change that as being on city council. During the campaign, what I've emphasized was facts, just pointing to facts rather than a narrative to push. So facts like population growth chart versus the issuance of multi-dwelling unit permits. It's just out of whack. Populations like this, the permits are like this. It just feels like we're growing way too fast, way too quickly. The facts like the specific pages on the Imagine IF where it calls out to be a 15-minute city, or to call out for this high density infill development. In facts like there was only 760 people that took the survey that created Imagine IF back in 2021 and 2021. And then facts like the tweaks to the zoning codes that Imagine IF brought forward. So things like that, like the infill development and the high density housing projects. Quotes from the planning and city council minutes that people stood up and were angry about what was happening in their community, and they were ignored, and the plans went through anyway. So I'm not a politician. I'm running for city council to be the voice of the citizens. And what I've been doing a lot is what Doug had said, was before you can change something, you have to understand how it works. So that's what I've been digging into a lot in these past couple months, is just figuring out how how we got where we are today, and how we can make changes moving forward. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Okay. Now the fun part. Let's ask her some questions. Anybody have any questions? Come on. All right.
I'll stand up and ask you a question. I asked the mayor the mayor, the will-be mayor, the same question. You know, I'm really dissatisfied with Imagine IF, and I was just wondering if you've been digging into it, if you see a way to change it, to strike out some of the things, to either have an alternative or just get rid of some of the things that we don't want. We don't really want a 15-minute city. It's not appropriate for our culture, our weather conditions and our community.
Yeah, I
So
completely
tell me
agree.
what you think about that.
It's going to take a while to change Imagine IF because it's a whole process that you have to go through. But there are some things that I've changed, that I see that can be changed to the zoning codes that were driven and changed by Imagine IF. I'll give you a few examples. In the R1 zone, so that's single family dwellings. It should be single family dwellings. In 2022, well, it started out with 6 units per acre in an R1 zone, single family dwelling. And then in 2022, they changed it to 7 to 8 per acre. So they're just increasing the number of houses we can put into the existing footprint in Idaho Falls. Another one is, this is a good one, R2, which is mixed use. Before it was like duplexes, with the R2. Just this year in 2025, they allow now ground floor retail in an R2 zone, and they lifted all the caps on the number of units in an R2 zone as long as it meets compliance with the fire codes. And this was specifically to get more infill, which means there's a vacant lot next to a neighborhood. They're going to put as many dwellings in that neighborhood as they can. They're just tweaking the zoning codes, which can be tweaked back to build up this high density in these areas. Did that answer it?
It's a matter of changing the code then,
Yes.
mainly.
Yeah, because all of these were recommended by Planning Commission and approved by City Council. All of these changes. So there's no reason we can't have planning and zoning redirect their focus from infill housing or to high density housing to let's get back to more traditional residential single family neighborhoods.
So will you have to go to planning and zoning and convince them to do that, or
Yes.
can you do it as a city council?
Yeah, I believe we'd have to go back to planning and zoning.
Okay. Just for my information, I can never understand what infill means. Is it infill or infield or?
It's infill. So rather than spread the footprint out of the city, they're going to fill in. You could call it fill in. They're going to fill in every single vacant lot with the highest density population as they can.
Oh.
Because the infrastructure is already there. The roads are already there. But it's good that the infrastructure is there. But it's bad that the roads are there because you're increasing the traffic and just the demand on that area tremendously by doing this method.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a little follow-up question on something that you said. And planning and zoning, doesn't that sort of work for the city council?
It does work for the city council.
And so shouldn't, you said you'd have to go back and convince planning and zoning, but shouldn't it be city council saying, you know, we want to make this change and all this, and we're going to make the set the codes and everything to do that. Planning and zoning, you have to make sure that things meet the way we want it done.
Yes, the planning or the city council can direct planning and zoning.
And so that was my thought. There is planning and zoning still, again, you know, works for city council, and everybody in the city works for the city council and the mayor, basically. Those elected positions, they're, quote, the boss, CEOs, these type of things, and you are the board of directors, right?
Correct.
Okay. The question was planning and zoning volunteers, and it is a volunteer unpaid type thing, and in my understanding is it's more of an advisory type role and looking at things of, does it meet the codes, does it meet these type things, and so that's where that happens. So
Yeah, and they're marching to the orders of Imagine IF as well.
Well, that's because that's what the comprehensive plan
Yes.
is.
Yes.
And the comprehensive plan says, you know, this is what we see Idaho Falls or Bonneville County when I'm growing, and whether it be Ammon and all this, and you have certain zones and areas that are supposed to be certain things. That's what your comprehensive plan is. You're supposed to follow your comprehensive plan, and then actually have it updated routinely and all this at certain times.
But the comprehensive plan isn't as specific to say take all the unit caps off of an R2 development to make as high of a density population as possible. I mean, it's not that specific. It needs to meet the intent.
Yeah, right. And I don't know how that happened and whatnot, but that is an interesting question that I would have is, who was the one that decided to take off those caps, and how do we put those caps back on?
Yeah, it was the Planning Commission meeting on May 6th that they approved it, and October 9th that the City Council approved that specific change.
Okay. I don't need to ask the questions.
This year.
So yeah, the follow-up question is, would you do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I wanted.
Imagine IF makes me mad.
My question is, when I first came to this area, it's all giant houses or apartments, and apparently they're going with the apartments. Is there any way that the city council can be able to bring up the idea of making these smaller homes, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, up to 3 or maybe 4, but something that somebody can get started in?
Yeah.
And I like the idea that Jeff had the other night is there a way to encourage building, or rather buying these things rather than renting them, so that everybody who gets into these things have skin in the game and they have a way to work their way up, buy small and progress as you get your income up and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Need
It doesn't
more
seem to
starter
happen.
homes.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to happen around here.
No, I definitely agree with the concept of starter homes, smaller homes,
Yes.
front yards, backyards,
Exactly.
just pride in ownership rather than living in an apartment.
Right,
I
because-
definitely would encourage that.
Yeah, because I worry about the crime that's going to be in all these
Yeah.
apartment areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Come on, we got to have some questions, Seth.
Sorry, I was a little late, so I don't know if you answered this, but sometimes it's just a matter of getting the word out. Like you said, with Imagine IF, nobody really heard about it, and 600, whatever number you said, 600 people got input. But do you have plans, if you become a member of the city council, on how to get the word out? Because like with the parking meters, that made a difference when people said, we don't want parking meters downtown. And since the city council has the final say on a lot of things, I was wondering if you have any plans to get the news out about things that, like Imagine IF, that we can do about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The key thing is the communication. I think there's a few things we can do, which is to have like town halls like this that people can actually talk to the officials of Idaho Falls and get answers, or get a commitment to an answer, or just to be heard. And then also like a hotline to the city, and just more innovative ways, because we know we love Facebook. We love a lot of these things. So I think we can do a better job to get information out from the city, not just this is when we're going to plow your street, this is when the pool's closed. They do that well, but they don't do like the specifics on what's happening, like the planning and zoning, and here's a list of what is going to be talked about. Or the city council meeting. You go to the city council meeting, and the last one that I went to, there was like 600 pages of backup, and it's not manageable. So there needs to be a better way to get out information in a more understandable fashion, of like, this is what's on the city council agenda.
Thanks.
So since we've got time here, I was just going to say, do you have a specific, you mentioned using Facebook to communicate, and town halls, that's really good. Is there anything else? Would you use Facebook? It seems like, I don't know.
I think people in this town really enjoy Facebook.
I think that would be the best
to use it.
the way.
I've used it more than I have in the past, but it does seem like it's an effective means of communication, and like public announcements and questions and answers, with questions that you can either call into the city, because I've talked to people that have tried to call into the city and they can't get anywhere. So a specific hotline to call into the city, so you can ask questions and then have those questions answered online, so anybody could go and see what the question was and what the answer is.
So would you do that as an individual council member, or would you do that, convince the city council as a group to do that?
I would convince the city council as a group to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it needs to be within the infrastructure of the city. The city council, all the directors need to be, in my opinion, more accountable to the citizens of Idaho Falls.
Okay, that's good. I have another question that sort of just occurred to me. I've been thinking about it. If you find yourself in the minority, which it looks
Oof.
like you may be with, this establishment group we've got coming, how are you going to deal with that?
That's a good question. I've thought about that a lot. I'm honestly, I'm just going to be the voice of the people. I'm going to be the one standing up and saying, no, this person said this person said this person said this, no. And the best I can do in a 6-person council is be the voice, to stand up and say no when it's appropriate.
Go, Teresa. Yeah. Okay, don't be intimidated.
Thanks.
I don't really have a question, but I want to say thank you, and Jared, for being willing to take us on, and Mayor Aldrich, thank you for being willing to take us on, because this is a huge thing to go against establishment, and I appreciate you going for the common man, like we've been saying. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to really encourage you to, I know you have questions, and it's hard to ask the questions. The one thing that we do different here at Stand Up for Idaho, we let you ask the questions. Most of the other forums and whatnot will let you write a question on a piece of paper and give it to a moderator. We don't do that here. We do that for a reason. And that's because that way, if you have a question, you need to get up and say something. And that way also, I don't, as a moderator, I'm not a filter for that. Okay? And that does cause us some problems. And this is part of the issue that we had, because we want you to ask your questions. I cannot ask the question you have with the passion or the background knowledge of why you're asking that question. And so I do encourage you, if you have a question, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. The only stupid question is the one that wasn't asked. Okay? So I encourage you to come up, ask your questions. Ask her some tough ones. Ask her some things, that Okay, I'll ask this one here, and it came up a minute ago. You said that somebody brought up this thing that's going to change the cap on the building. Who was the name that did that? I would like to know the name that did that. Was it, John Doe, Jane Doe? Who was the one that suggested that? And then who actually caused that to happen? Because we need to hold people accountable. We need to be able to, in my opinion, trace back to where these things, the origin of these type of things. So would you be willing to be totally transparent and say, Jared was the one that wanted to do this, and he brought the proposal and convinced the city council to do this, and that actually, Teresa said yes, Jim said no, and on and on.
I don't have the specific person's answer, but it was definitely planning and zoning in May that said to be in compliance or to meet the standards of Imagine IF, that we need to do the infill development, and this specifically assists with the infill development. So it's building the higher density in any of the zones. The R2 zone that was just a duplex can have no cap, just as long as it meets fire code. So Planning and Zoning Commission approved it in May. City Council approved it unanimously in October. So I don't know the origin story of it, but
Was it a developer?
Don't know.
Yeah, I'm just question. My question. So, come on, somebody else has to have another question here.
Sorry I was late. I almost got in another car accident. Thank you for coming. Where the hell's the other guy? All right. I've asked this a million times, but I'll ask again just in case someone hasn't seen the previous recordings. What will you, as councilwoman, do for our first responders? What will you do different from him?
I don't know what Brandon is thinking or doing. Just as a side note, mentally, I had to just have blinders on in this entire campaign. I don't know. I've never been to anybody's websites. I don't know their platforms. So I've just had to go this way and not look in either direction. So I don't know what his idea is. We definitely absolutely need to support our police and our first responders as best we can. I think Jeff had alluded in the mayor forum on Tuesday, and I think it's a good idea to shift the impact fees, the amount that each of the areas, like Parks and Rec, is getting a certain percentage, and first responders are getting a first percentage. I think if it's possible, it'd be a great idea to give more money to the first responders and the police that are in the fire that are out there keeping us safe.
I'll add to that since people are kind of shy. So if they needed more budget for equipment or new vehicles or for retirement or for something, how would you vote?
It depends on the entire the budget as a whole. I don't think it's sorry, but I don't think I can answer that question as like you'd have to see where else you can adjust the budget to push it into where the needs are for the first responders.
You would be fiscally responsible not to have something that's earmarked that is pork. Is that correct?
Not sure what you mean.
If it's not necessary, if it seems like it's not necessary, would you veto that?
Oh, as opposed to putting it towards the first responders and the police?
Yes.
Yes, I would be for that, because I think that's a definite critical community service that this community really needs. So yes, I would support additional funding.
Relax, I won't bite.
Okay, another question. Any other follow-up question? Some more questions? Come on up.
Now, as far as, do you have any ideas or that the city council could do traffic because of all these apartments and whatever else that's growing here? Is backing up something fierce lately, Ammon Road and those kinds of things. Is there anything, any ideas you have that could help them to figure out how they're going to rearrange, and maybe to please never put another double roundabout? Because those were bad news.
Yeah, no, it's a good
Singles aren't too bad, but
yeah,
doubles
yeah,
are
yeah.
ridiculous.
That one out near Costco. It's
That's,
terrifying.
yeah.
Speaking of car
So,
accidents.
and like I said, traffic is getting a little hairy out there.
Yeah,
so.
I think there's immediate things we can do, and we have a lot of very smart people that work for the city. So if they're directed that their priority is to get traffic better for the people. An example is homes used to be two lanes on each side, and we shifted that, and I go on homes every single day. We shifted it to one lane and a bike lane. It's a nightmare to get out on homes. Things like that we could say, okay, let's shift homes back to the bike lane.
Yeah.
Probably isn't the best use for Idaho Falls right now. Mm-hmm. So let's shift it back to 4 lanes so you can get out from the numbered streets and be able to get back onto homes.
Right. And I would suggest, I don't know, I came from an area that had 3 lanes, and that for some reason is not a good thing. Mm-hmm. It gets really confusing. Nobody seems to know what's the main lane, and they're all over the place. So I suggest never suggesting that.
Yeah, I think the idea is to refocus the departments to immediately address what the issues are that the citizens have. So like Yellowstone, it every time I drive down Yellowstone, it seems like the lights are really just off.
Yeah.
You're just always stuck in front of the toy store right there all the time.
Or they might let 3 go, and then you got 15 in behind.
Yeah, we have a lot of smart people that work for the city of Idaho Falls, and if we say, okay, make the traffic better, I think we could do it.
That would be awesome. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, so both mayoral candidates that are in the runoff have expressed interest and, thank you, have expressed interest in building a new civic center. What are your thoughts on building the new civic center, and where would the money come from?
I agree that we need a new civic center, but I also agree we need to figure out where the funding is going to come from, whether it be a public-private partnership type situation, or we just have to know where the money is going to come from. I don't really agree that it should be a bond measure for it. And I agree that we need to get more public input on where the best place to put it would be, because I really think having it anywhere near downtown is going to be a nightmare as far as traffic goes. It just needs to be in the right location and have the right amenities for that. I really think that we should focus on the current infrastructure in the Parks and Rec to make sure that's good, but before we move forward with another project. Mm-hmm. So I agree that we need one, but I'm cautious on where exactly the large amount of money is going to come from.
Yeah, a follow up to that, like the Mountain America Center took forever to build. Like they instituted the hotel tax, and it just took forever to construct. And it's nice that we have it now, but it took forever to build. How are you going to make sure that the civic center, if the city does decide to pursue it, is built in a timely manner?
I don't have that answer right now on how we can incentivize the project and the project managers to do it on time and within budget, which would be always the goal. I mean, you want on time and within budget. So I mean that should be the priority of the city council and the mayor to say, okay, this is the project, this is the budget, this is when it needs to be done. They seem to be putting up a lot of apartment buildings very, very, very fast these days. So it seems like we might have the ability to do something like that fast, given the incentive.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I want to make a comment, make it clear of something here. Stand Up for Idaho doesn't endorse or oppose any of the candidates. You know, we're not endorsing Aldrich. We're not endorsing Burton Shaw or opposing any of them. Our purpose here is to actually give the candidates the opportunity to talk to you. And hopefully those candidates take advantage of that opportunity. I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that. It does frustrate me when people and candidates don't take advantage of these opportunities, and at times it feels like to me that some people or some factions of people just don't matter. And to me, everybody matters. Everybody here matters. Everybody at City Club matters. Everybody at the Chamber of Commerce matter. We all matter. And so it frustrates me times when people, candidates, whether it be local city council and mayoral candidates or whether it be state legislators or governors candidates, deem that a certain faction of people don't matter. So our purpose here, one of our purposes here again, is to give an opportunity for every candidate to come and show why they're wonderful and why everybody should vote for them. And I say that in jest a little bit, but it's the truth. And we need to figure out who's going to look out for us as individuals, not special interest groups, not special, not certain factions, but everybody. We the people. So I just wanted to make that clear. Okay, somebody else. Terry, you have a question.
Where do you stand on the water metering issue with the city? And do you, with all of the talk of lack of water in the area, do we have a problem here in Idaho Falls? My understanding is we don't, but I just wondered where you stand and why. And the other question I would have for both of you actually is to draw the distinction is what is the difference between what does a city councilman do versus what does the mayor do?
We'll tackle water meters first. I'm not a fan of water meters. They started putting in the hookups for the multi-units in 1987 for water meters. The water in Idaho, about less than 2% of it is used by municipalities in all of Idaho. In 2015, they estimated how much money it would take to put in water meter infrastructure in all of the existing homes, the ones that were built before 1987. And that number in 2015 was $87 million. So it's kind of like spending millions to chase pennies in that case, because you're only going to be saving less than around 2%, a fraction of about 2%. So when I talked to one of the city directors, we talked about water meters, and the question was, do we really need to do it? And in his mind, it was yes. People need to feel it in their pocketbooks if they're using more water. Kind of like the electricity analogy there. If you leave your light on, you're going to pay more money. In his mind, that was, if you use too much water, you're going to pay more money. And I think that's definitely a wrong approach to take. I think education is a good way to go as far as water usage and water conservation goes. What was the second question? Sorry.
Tara, can you come up and talk, please? For those watching at home.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You're good.
I just wondered if you could draw a distinction about what a city councilman does versus what the mayor does, and also why that would be important to know. For one thing, I didn't realize it for a long time, but my understanding is the mayor doesn't actually vote unless there's a tie on some of the issues that the city council is running at the time. And also, it's a lot of packed questions, but there's not very many people here. Why did you decide to run for city council?
I'll go with the mayor question first. The city council has a tremendous amount of power. Like it's amazing how much power they really just basically rule the city. And like you said, in a 6-member council, if it's a 3-3 tie, then the mayor gets to break the tie. But if it's 4-2, then what the city council goes is rules, or says goes. As far as the mayor goes, I mean, he's got all the directors under him. He can do a lot of the hiring, a lot of the firing. I mean, he has a significant, or she has a significant impact on the whole operation of the city, how the machine works. So yeah, no, I think there's power in both. But as far as making changes, the city council definitely has, I think, more power than the mayor. Does that answer it? And then you added another one on. So sorry.
Why did you decide to run for city councilman? What are your thoughts? And I probably missed it because I was a little late, but what is your background? How did you come to be here and want to make a difference?
My family's been here for around 15 years, and my background is in environmental waste management. My husband and I are both in the environmental field. So currently I'm working for Idaho Environmental Coalition. So we deal with all the waste that's out at the INL, just the disposal and the characterization of that waste. And I've been doing that for about 30 years at various different DOE sites around the country. The reason why I am doing this is solely because of what I would see when I drive around on a daily basis. It just got more and more and more, and I couldn't drive around anymore and not stand up and say, okay, why is this happening? It doesn't make sense to me, and what can we do about it? So that's really the main reason why I'm running, and it all comes down to Imagine IF, the comprehensive plan.
Hey, Teresa, what jobs or industries would you like to see brought to Idaho Falls in the near future?
Oh, that's a good one. Thanks. I like to see. There's a story that somebody told me. I don't know how factual it is, but there about 5-7 years ago, Cabela's approached the city and they wanted to put in a mega store near the river, and it would have like a boat dock, and it had like the full on aquariums and stuff like that, and that just excited me. But the city council turned it down. It was either the mayor or the city council. I didn't get the specifics. And but something like that could be a tourist attraction, I think was a real big miss for the city, because that's right on the highway. Just something that would draw people into town. So something like that, I think, would be a fantastic idea to draw people into the city.
Back to the water meters. So out of curiosity, we have the city, they also use our water, correct? They water during the day.
Oh yes,
And when it's super
the city,
hot,
yes,
and then you
yes.
drive by and your car gets nice and wet.
Yep.
And then how many car washes do we have?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm sorry, I do not know that
No,
number
you're
because
good.
they
So
keep
as far as
building them.
approving so many car washes,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
kind of out of curiosity. I hope they're getting metered.
They are planning on doing the meters for the not the industrial, the commercial uses. They are metering the commercial uses, and I do agree with that for reasons like that, because they can change their process to conserve water. Yeah, they are going to put in water meters for the commercial.
Okay, city vehicles, I see some of them actually in my neighborhood. There's one that actually is in my neighborhood. I'm okay with the police more driving because seeing their presence is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more rare, but
Yep.
the city vehicles, what's your thoughts on actually taking them home and using those for personal use?
I think if it's like a job, like a public work job where you could be called out to
No.
well, yeah,
Not
I would agree if it was a job where you could be called out on any moment's basis to deal with something within the city. That makes sense. But to use a city vehicle as your commuter vehicle, that doesn't make sense to me at all.
And then what about contracting for the utilities? It seems like the utility bills, at least for my work, I get 3 of them, one's for water, one's for sewer. and garbage, or sorry, one's for water, and the other one is for garbage, and then I have the one for power. They're all separate. But the billings actually come out of California.
I'm
And
do
that's
not
who you
yeah
actually talk to.
I'm not sure how that actually works.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. It's actually interesting too because they contract out who mows.
So that's for your work. You get the 3 separate.
And I'm actually City of Idaho Falls at my work as well.
Oh, okay.
I do all the billings.
Yeah, gotcha. No, I'm sorry. I don't have that answer on why the commercial is separate and being billed out of California.
They used to have like teenagers that would come and mow the lawns for the city during the summer,
Mm-hmm.
but now they have like a company. I believe it's TNT that does all the mowing. Is that something that would be maybe brought back?
It does make
Have
sense to
that.
me because the kids are off in the summertime to have them have good summer jobs and just to be around the city and the citizens seeing the kids working in the city and taking pride in the city, I think is a fantastic idea.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I don't really have a question, but a couple of comments. One is on car washes. I've just heard they go to a lot of effort to recycle their water usage. I don't know about that, but that would be something to keep in mind when you discuss that subject. The other thing was the traffic situation. I'll fully agree. It's miserable. However, one thing that I would encourage you as a city council person in trying to resolve that, the natural thing is to widen roads and so forth. And in other communities, I've seen where they've widened the roads, and so much so that when a person steps out of their house, they're on the sidewalk essentially. And I think that's a sad thing for established residents that they end up losing their yard for wider roads. But I don't know the answer, but that's a concern.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and that there has to be some solutions that we can implement right away without going to the multi-million-dollar road widening project in existing neighborhoods. I completely agree, but I think there's adjustments that we could make to the traffic patterns that would make it a lot smoother than it is than we're all feeling it right now. And then in the future, if you're going to build a giant apartment complex, make sure that the infrastructure is there, kind of like the Taylorview Crossing. They built all the roads, and now they're building the apartment buildings. That kind of makes sense from my mind, from a planning perspective, to not just keep piling into the existing footprint without taking into consideration the current infrastructure.
Quick follow-up to that. What ideas do you have currently to change traffic patterns?
Like the one on Holmes that I talked about, and like just getting the lights better on Yellowstone. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and there was a road, Delaware Avenue, that if you drove 35 miles an hour, you could hit every light green. You did not stop. You just went the entire route of the city, and every light was green for you. If you went 40, you'd catch every red light. So yeah, no, I think there's things like that we could implement that would make traffic smoother on some of these roads.
But nothing like roundabouts in different parts of the city or like new traffic formations like with the highways or anything like that?
I like the single lane roundabouts. I'm not a fan of the double lane roundabouts, but a lot of those are Idaho Department of Transportation areas, like that one by Costco. That's not a city area, and even Yellowstone is not city. But I think we could work with Idaho Department of Transportation to get some changes that will have an impact on the traffic.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Come on. There you go.
Ted Milton. And this is sort of a suggestion of how you can resolve a problem using the city council person. I've developed some properties here in town, and one of them had a fire restriction, and the planning and zoning director told me personally I could not do what I wanted to do. Well, I happen to know a fire engineer, and he said, you can do that. It's in the code. So we sat down with the city's code book and looked through it, and I found out, yep, we can do what I want to do. But he still insisted that I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. He finally threatened me, if you try to put a road in onto your property, I'll block it off. And I said, well, you'll be welcome to do that, but when you come back the next day, you won't find any equipment that belongs to the city or anybody else blocking my road off, because I'll tow it away. And the way that I got around it is I went back to one of the city council people and said, we've got a person over here that's out of bounds. You've got to tell them that they may be the director of a department, but they can't make their own rules. It's got to be approved. Anyway, and so the jobs of city council people really are important. And Teresa, if you learn, get your back up. Go after the other city council people when they're out of line.
That is my intention. that is my goal. And I'm talking about the working with the business owners. We need to work with we don't need to be adversarial. We need to work with the business owners, and that makes absolutely no sense if it's within the code that they're saying no, you can't do it. That makes absolutely no sense. I'd like to create an environment where the directors and the city council and the mayor work with the business owners and the local residents and the local business owners to figure things out. Don't say you can't do it. Let's figure it out on how this is going to work for the best of us, or for all of us.
Well, you're never gonna know when that's gonna come up, because they can get their back up. It's because they don't like you.
Yeah.
And so the citizen that's trying to do a project has got a right to be able to voice his opinion on what he can do.
Yep.
And if you can look it up like I did, you solved your own problem.
Yeah.
But you had to basically step on him to get him to come to the table.
Yeah, no, the city should be working with the business owner and not fighting with the business owner. The Red Barn is another example. I think the city could have handled that a little better. I know that there were specific issues, but the city could have handled that a lot better, to work with Red Barn to figure out how to make this work and get the safety involved in that. So I think if the directors should be directed to work with the business owners and not against them.
Well, I think you're right, and good luck.
Thank you.
I have a question about communication with the public, and wonder how you would improve that communication. It seems to be like there's a wall up in trying to address some of the issues with the city, and you go to a city council meeting and you can't be heard unless there's all these rules made, that unless it's already on the agenda. And I guess we need somebody that can go in and try to communicate, some of the things that maybe the people would like, and wonder how you intend to improve communication with the public and let them know that you're on their side and trying to come up with solutions to problems instead of trying to hire AI or somebody else to solve that problem for us.
Yeah.
How would you improve that?
Yeah, no, that's come up a lot in our forums and our meet and greets and just canvassing that the people have tried to call the city and they don't know what number to call. They don't know, they don't usually get a response. So I think one of the things I think that would be good would be to put a question and answer line on the city's website, whether it be through the website to do a question. We have this at work. So you ask a question, and then in a certain amount of time, 3-4 days, the answer appears. So everybody can see your question and everybody can see the answer to it. That's one way. Forums, kind of like this situation, whether it be in different areas or whether it be, but just have all the department heads, the city council and the mayor available to answer questions just like this. So either there's answers from the department heads or they can get answers. So I think that would be good to reach out to the community that way. No, I don't want an AI answer line to go on in the city. I think also just like having open door sessions, like with the city council, you're only allowed to speak for 3 minutes. And once city council is meeting, that they've already done their work session. They've already decided on everything they're going to say and do. They're not going to be persuaded. You're allowed 3 minutes, and that just makes absolutely no sense to me to just allow somebody to speak for 3 minutes. To have open chambers of city council so people can come and discuss it. Like just more of an open door policy rather than a we'll let you speak for 3 minutes in a meeting.
Come on, yeah, sure. The advantage of being able to, what we have here is you can ask more than one question, so no problem.
Another issue that I'd like to bring up that was really bothersome to me is we found out, and a lot of people found out like I did by looking at Local News 8 when they wanted to put in the metered parking for downtown. And that day I went home on my lunch hour and I called the city and wanted to know how this had been made done, and if the businesses were aware of those changes. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like something was missing. In the past, Lisa had said something to the effect that they had approved it in a city council meeting before, that the group that was responsible for that had brought it up to the city council. Do we have an assurance from you that you're willing to question decisions like that being made? I think an obvious one for me, if I had been there, is, well, have we approached the different businesses to see if they really think this is a viable solution to the downtown parking problem? I think we need more people to not just agree on everything, just a comment, but somebody that's willing to say, hey, maybe we need to look in this a little further because there's more involved than what might seem on the surface, and ask the people what they want. Anyway, that's what I would just say as a comment. I just didn't feel like that was in good faith, given to the businesses to really come up with a solution. Instead, it was the city council that decided, well, we're going to do this. And then after a bunch of backlash, they decided not to do it. Of course, at least right now, I'm sure if Lisa gets back in there, that's another thing that they want to down the road try to get back in there again. And anyway, that's just a comment.
Yeah, the Downtown Development Services Corporation, they have a memorandum of understanding with the city. So they're the ones that instigated the parking, and I did watch the city council meeting where they were discussing the parking meter issues with with the city hall, with the city council and the mayor. It was a painful meeting to listen to, but the owners of the businesses downtown did not know this was happening before I knew, when I had a little like email, or you knew from reading the newspaper, which I think is absolutely crazy. And I mean, if you listen to the meeting where they were discussing it, it just seems so out of touch with the needs of the downtown. It seemed like they're actively preventing people from wanting to go downtown rather than encouraging people to go downtown. And I remember reading one of the current council members had said, well, every big city has paid parking, so eventually it's going to come here. And I don't know if the current city council understands that we don't want to be a big city. We want to remain like a nice, friendly, family-oriented town. We don't want to be a big city.
Any other comments, questions?
Hello, I drive passengers around all day, and there's a number of private transportation companies as well as Uber and Lyft in town. And as I drive across different towns in the western United States, Idaho Falls is the only one without a dedicated parking area for the Uber and Lyft drivers in a commercial airport. Would you commit to be more friendly on behalf of the city toward these existing transportation services and reduce the commitment that Idaho Falls as a community uses taxpayer funding to compete against local transportation companies?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly, embarrassingly, I didn't know that there wasn't like a stand where you could just park in front and just sit there and wait for people to come out so they can come and go in like you are at other airports. And there's certainly the space for it, and there's certainly the need for it. Probably not as much in other big cities, but they're definitely, I would commit to making that happen for the airport, because there's space, and it makes absolutely no sense not to allow or to facilitate Uber drivers or Lyft drivers to be there to take people home when they arrive at the airport.
Any other questions? Oh.
Do you think it's right for the city to compete against local businesses through the community bus program gift?
You mean like gift? So the question is that gift is competing with Uber drivers and Lyft drivers. Yeah, it's just gift is not a sustainable transportation method at this point. We have a grant from a federal grant that is running out this year, so it's not sustainable. It's the last I looked, it was like $28 a ride that the city is paying. The budget is just astronomical for the needs of a population this size. So I think there could be a different alternative to utilize the Lyft drivers and the Uber drivers, and to like bring them into the fold. Our son is autistic, so he takes like M&T transportation and stuff like that. I think we could have some kind of more of a public-private partnership for the transportation to make it more wide-reaching and to get the cost down, because the cost is, like I said, not sustainable.
Any other questions?
I have one. I don't know if I can say this right. It's kind of a human thing to realize that you can spend somebody else's money really easily, more than you can your own, and you're very careful with your own money, and I'm very careful with my own budget. But it seems like the government has this idea, I think it's a human trait, that it's somebody else's money, or they call it public funds. So it's, it's just, there's lots of money, so we can spend it. And I've talked to a lot of people who work in the city, and they say that there's a lot of waste that they can see. So I was just wondering if you had some kind of an idea of where you could encourage all the departments to to be very effective and very efficient with the money, and that since the budget's been growing so immensely, as was pointed out at some of the other forums, we need to work on that. We need to be able to do something, and it's been mentioned that priorities need to be changed so that we're spending on needs rather than wants, and the budget just can't keep expanding like it is. So do you have an idea of how you can cut waste and maybe Doge Idaho Falls?
We can Doge Idaho Falls. Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I'm not a fan of like the baseline increasing 3% or more every year. It's just feeding the machine, for lack of a better word. And efficiencies, you can find efficiencies in any company or in any business. So I guarantee you there's efficiencies we could do, or there's ways that we can cut or reduce spending in certain areas. So I don't have specific examples, but it would definitely be something that I would promote and push.
I have a question about impact fees. First of all, some people in the audience at home might not understand what impact fees are. Could you explain what impact fees are? And my understanding that currently a lot of the impact fees that we have aren't necessarily spent in the area that they're being charged, for a group of residents of one part of the city versus another part of the city, and that they just bulk them together and are able to spend it on whatever they want, as long as it has something to do with the purpose of the impact fees, meaning like fire or parks or police or something of that nature. And where do you stand on those issues?
Yeah, so the impact fees are fees that the developers pay to go towards the transportation. I gotta put my glasses on. Transportation, parks, police, fire, and EMS. So there's certain percentage of the impact fees that are collected that go to those areas. It's my understanding that it's my feeling that they should be specific to the areas that they are being impacted. So if you have the giant apartment building, say next to a Home Depot, that they're putting in, and they need to spend those impact fees in that area. I don't know all the legalities of it, and I know they break it down into certain percentages. So transportation gets the biggest percentage, and then transportation's 56%, parks is 24-ish, police is 9%, fire and EMS is 8 to 9. I'd like to, if possible, not sure if it's legal, to shift that percentage so we can have a more equal, because we're putting in a lot of residents, a lot of density of residents. So the police and the EMS need to be upgraded as well, and not just specifically like the parks. I think what you're referring to is a park on the east side of town. They're trying to put in another park down by Sandy Downs, that area. I'm not a fan of that, just because those impact fees don't really have an impact on that area. They have the buildings and the homes need the impact fees need to be spent where they're having the biggest impact.
I'm going to try and get this out the best way that I can. This is more of a comment. But I believe, Teresa, you've been going to all the events that you've been invited to, right?
I have every single one.
So, if you're on a campaign, Doug Toomer has set up a fantastic forum here for people to come, and there's not a bouncer at the door. You can get in here and ask the questions that need to be asked for candidates. If you're campaigning, this is an opportunity for you to get in touch with your constituents. Doesn't matter if they agree with you, doesn't matter if they have opinions that you don't agree with. You get here and get to every event where you can talk to your constituents, because that's your potential constituent who could be a voter for you. And that's an empty seat right there. And I'm honestly disgusted. I'm really disgusted. And I'm so grateful for you, Teresa, to come here, because you've gone to every event you've been invited to. And this is just indicative of the kind of leadership we're going to be getting from your opponent, is this empty chair right here. So that's why I'm going to be giving you your vote.
Thanks.
I don't know if you have an answer to this question, but I'll try and phrase it the best way that I can. So you mentioned earlier that as city council, you can potentially rezone areas. However, there's also like pre-existing use cases that would protect apartments that are already there, and that's why we're feeling the impacts of Imagine IF, is because there's already so many apartments that have used that infill and have already been built. So my question to you is, if you're on city council and you're trying to rezone or like change Imagine IF, like what can you do to reduce the effects of what we're already feeling from the infill apartments?
Yeah, obviously we can't take back what we've already done, but we can. I don't know if you were here when I was talking about some of the tweaks to the codes. We can turn an R2 zone, for example, back into a duplex.
But if there's something already built there, like you can't.
No, I cannot see any way of undoing the past in this situation. But we can adjust how we move forward in the future. Right. And that would be the ultimate goal, is to say, oh, okay, this is not what this is not what the citizens of Idaho Falls want, and there's more coming unless we make some shifts in the city government, the leadership of the city government.
Right, and I guess as a follow-up, this is kind of related. Like, I've seen bigger cities adopt like mixed zoning laws, and you've mentioned earlier that we don't want to be a big city, and I agree with that. We don't want to be a big city. But what are your thoughts on like implementing some mixed zoning, maybe where it makes sense in town? Like,
it already is implemented. They're called planned unit developments. So okay. they're the ones that they do mixed use. So it's could be a retail on a top floor, and then 3-story apartment. They're even So it can be used. It kind of goes, it's a layer over the current zoning code. So it's called a planned unit development. And it's just like you can build an entire development with some amenities, as long as you have some amenities in there, on this piece of land. And that's allowed in every single residential zone. So beyond the codes, the planned unit development approvals, I would propose not having those into all the zones, just because it's opening up the floodgates to as high a density population or high density housing as you can get, just as long as you meet the basic criteria for the planned unit development.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for another question. Across the town, some of the neighborhoods are struggling with short-term rentals being implemented into neighborhoods where there's homes and families. And so there's problems with traffic from things like Airbnbs and VRBOs. Looking forward, in your potential term as a city council person, what would be the place for short-term housing and their placement in residential neighborhoods?
So short-term rentals was changed to allowable in 2024 in R1 zones. I didn't realize that until I started doing the research, because I have a friend of mine who's just very angry because he's got an Airbnb next to him. So they're there for 30 days. Sometimes he gets a really good rental, and sometimes he gets the ones that are partying in the backyard that's next to his bedroom window. So definitely shifting the short-term rentals out of the R1 zones, I think, would be a good start to do that.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Terry.
My name's Terry Ireland, and I'm a small business owner in downtown Idaho Falls, and I just want to thank you for all of the time you've spent. It's been a real gift, of your time for you to come and visit with me and learn about downtown, and to find out what the business owners really do and do not know. And I think going forward, you and I are going to make a good team.
Yay.
As we keep downtown, if we stand up for downtown like
There
you're
you go.
standing up for Idaho. So
Sounds
thank you,
great.
Teresa.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
This is more of a comment. There seems to be sometimes decisions that are made without looking at the full scope of things. And one of the past meetings, this has to do with Lisa, because she's part of this current city council. And she says she takes a lot of pride in the fact that they expanded the green belt and made it beautiful over there. Well, I agree it is really beautiful, but one of the things that she neglected to address, and I would have loved to have asked her or even Brandon about, is, well, what about those parking spaces that were taken out to fulfill that expanded, park, for the green belt, because I think we need to have a voice, not just thinking about one aspect, but how it's going to affect other things. And the fact that they were willing to, make a decision on having paid parking, but then they took some of the parking out, to me, that shows a lack of respect for the business owners to, they were willing to sacrifice the one thing, but then they didn't give any resolutions for the other. And that's something that I would like to see you try to think about things when things are being developed from all different angles and how it would affect different groups like the downtown. And it's beautiful over there and I love it, but I also think that there needs to be decisions made, that are not going to impact the businesses even worse. And also, I think a lot of times she says, that they want to expand the parks and things, but I live in a neighborhood that I know years ago was told that we were going to have a park, and there's no park in our little area, and it's not too far from the new apartments over on Meppen area that's right by the college. And now they're building, obviously, another part of the college over there. And so that park never happened. And so, I just want to say that there's things that we need to keep in mind, that parks are great, but also I know expansion needs to happen, but we need to, make sure that residents are made part of those decisions rather than just let's go make the decision for them. And that drives me crazy, that people would make the decisions for us instead of letting us be heard, and having that communication be better would be a great help, I think. So thank you.
Yep. Yeah, no, I completely agree. The whole downtown situation, it's almost like they're not encouraging people to go downtown, and that affects the downtown businesses. I've been through so many planning hearing meeting minutes and planning and zoning meeting minutes, and people are showing up, but what they're doing is the bare minimum. They're just doing the 300 feet around. We're going to make a public notice for 300 feet around the area that's affected. And then, like the one that I was reading, there's only 35 people that showed up, but every single one of those 35 people said, we do not want double story houses looking down into our backyard. And the answer from the planning and zoning from the developer was, it costs too much to put in basements, so this is what you get. So it's in every aspect of the government, that current leadership, that we're seeing that. Some people are showing up, but they're not being heard. We were doing canvassing around the ballpark, and there was some people we were talking to that said it's a nightmare in the summer, because that area is completely blocked off from getting to the other side of town because of the farmers market. I'm just saying that maybe we need to think of like solutions for like traffic that takes into consideration the entire city and the downtown business owners. So I completely agree that voices aren't heard.
Any other questions? Anybody have to use the restroom? You're doing good, Hope. Okay, well, you've all held out really well without any restrooms and whatnot. So, Teresa, how about a couple of minutes? Just tell us final thoughts and whatnot, what you would think, and anything you'd like to tell us.
Okay, thanks for having me. 12 more days until election. I think the biggest thing that Doug also alluded to is that we need to get people out to vote. Whether people that are registered, those 75% that are registered that didn't vote the first time need to get out. People that are not registered need to get out. It's a big deal, and we need to get as many people that you know in this room or watching on Rumble and YouTube to get out and vote. And if you want to see change, we have to vote on December 2nd. And I appreciate all the questions. Thank you.
All right, let's give her a big hand. I appreciate, and I'd like to acknowledge and say I appreciate the comment that a person said earlier about Stand Up for Idaho. We definitely are. You know, it's funny, this whole election has been interesting. You know, I am not a Facebook guy. I don't watch Facebook, and I can hardly even get on it and all of this. But I understand that we Stand Up for Idaho has been called some names or whatnot that I would say. Stand Up for Idaho is nonpartisan. We are not part of the Republican Party. We're not part of the Democratic Party. We're not part of any party. We are us. And us includes, in my mind, anybody and everybody in this whole city and this whole state that wants to come. That's who we are. We're non-denominational. It's not about whether you're LDS, whether you're Catholic. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's about us kids that I say. We're definitely a nonprofit. Okay, but it's about us kids trying to figure out what's going on. And what Stand Up for Idaho tries to do is give an opportunity to anybody and everybody to say their piece. And because a lot of us don't get that opportunity. You know, there's a lot of things going on in this country, in this world, that we just don't understand. And I truly believe that by listening to all sides of the story, keeping an open mind and looking at these things, we will learn. And we will figure out what is right. And what is right for us. And I believe that most of us and the people, really are good in their heart. And so how do we do these things? That's what Stand Up for Idaho is about. I've been criticized recently because of some of these forums and whatnot, but I firmly believe that you have the right to ask the questions. You need to be able to do this. And I appreciate that, like I say, appreciate the comments. I will give anybody, you're going to see the primaries coming up in May. I will invite every candidate to come. I'll invite, the variety of Republicans that will probably be running, okay? The Democrats will be running, okay? Because the thing is it matters to you. And it's important for us to see everything. It's hard. It's really hard to know what's truth. And it's up to us all if we want to look out not only for us today, but our kids and our grandkids and future generations. We need to start paying attention, and we need to start taking actions. We need to understand what's going on, truly understand what's going on, and do what we can to hopefully guide us, our city, our county, our state, our country, our world into the way that is beneficial for all of us. I truly believe that. And, I do appreciate everybody's support. I do wish Brandon would have been here. I think, he wasn't. I think there's lost opportunity. I wish that he would have brought an entourage of people, because what happens when you get a bunch of people here, there's conversations to start happening. And you know what? Somebody sitting next to you that may not be your friend or whatnot may have an idea that, they may be right on something. But if we don't take the opportunity to communicate and to talk, we're going to have troubles. And we are having troubles. And that's why Stand Up for Idaho does what we're doing. I'm going to let y'all go. Thank you so very much. Again, nothing next week. Okay? Have a great Thanksgiving. Be back on the 3rd. That'll be the day after Election Day. And everybody needs to, obviously go on and vote. And on the 3rd, like I say, we're going to learn more, a different perspective on what happened on this 50 states, one Israel trip. So thank you all so much. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.